They call this driver Durable Jones because Jones is his name and durable is his nature. When it comes to trucks, Durable can handle them, on the road and off. And by off, we don't mean off in the deadline. His truck never asks for sick leave. Whenever needed, it's on the road and rolling. There's a reason. That brings us to Form 48, trip ticket. You've seen it before. And on the back, the driver's daily preventive maintenance services, a list to aid the driver in servicing every part of his vehicle. There are 4 times when the servicing is done, so the services to be performed are grouped into 4 sections. After operation service, at the bottom of the ticket, is surrounded by a black line to make it stand out. That's because a complete daily servicing of every unit on the truck is done at this time, after operation. Before operation service is done before use of the truck. During operation service, lists the services performed or checked on while driving. And lastly, at halt service, names the servicing duties to attend to at that period. Most of the items are repeated 1 or more times in the 4 groupings. So at first glance, they look like a pretty large order. However, if you made a list of the number of operations you perform in shifting gears during just 1 day, that would look like a pretty large order too. But you do it automatically, having gotten into the habit of shifting gears dozens of times a day. Now, with the services you perform in preventive maintenance simplified into a plan of action, with one service always following another in order, you'll get into the habit of doing them automatically too, and regard it as another part of your job as a driver. Preventive maintenance has been organized into a systematic plan in which you shift quickly from one check to another until all have been completed. There are certain things to be done. In the cab, outside the vehicle, under the hood, and under the vehicle, inside, outside, and under. That's the servicing plan. In the after-operation service, this plan is followed in full. In the cab, outside the vehicle, under the hood, and under the truck. Durable Jones has just completed a tough assignment. He's tired, hungry, and dirty, and now is his chance to do something about it. But does he? Look at his truck. It's spattered with mud. It's about out of gas, and something is leaking. All in all, it's in just about the same shape as its driver, except for one thing. The truck can't do anything about it. Let's watch Durable Jones. If his truck spends less time on the deadline than any other truck in the unit, he's worth watching. He's already in the cab, so he starts from there. Accelerates the engine a few times and listens for knocks, rattles, or other unusual sounds, and at the same time watches the instruments on the dashboard to see that they are indicating properly. He operates the windshield wipers long enough to see that they work okay, and if not too close to the enemy, he blows the horn, then shuts off the engine. He checks rear vision mirrors to see that they are adjusted to give the widest possible view and aren't loose. Then, finding a broken window glass, he makes a report of it on the trip ticket. Fixing it is not a first echelon job. He makes sure that the fire extinguisher and decontaminator are full and securely mounted. Now he turns on the bright lights and goes to the front of the truck to see that they're both working. Then around to the rear where he wipes the dust or mud from the lamp and reflector lenses and sees that none is missing or broken. This process is repeated both front and rear for blackout lamps. While at the tool compartment, he picks up his tool bag and goes back to the cab to turn off the lights. This completes the in-the-cab service, which is performed or controlled inside the cab. As he's on the left side of the truck, he goes to the left front wheel. Here he starts his outside check. First, an overall check of the tires to see that there are no cuts or bruises, embedded foreign matter, abnormal tread wear, and for presence of valve caps. Next, he corrects any looseness he finds at the following points: wheel lug nuts, rebound clip bolts, U-bolt nuts, fender bolts, bumper bolts, and towing connections. He then moves to the right front wheel and repeats this service item by item. Completing the services here, the next stop is the battery, where he removes the cover and checks for cleanliness. Then he notes whether the electrolyte is at the proper level, replacing the vent caps firmly but not too tight. He then checks the terminals to ensure they are tight and free from corrosion. Moving on, he makes sure that none of the body bolts are loose, which brings him to the right rear wheels. He repeats the service on the wheels and around them. Whenever he finds anything wrong he can take care of, he does so. If there's a rock lodged between the dual tires, he removes it and examines both tires to see that they have not been injured. Completing his checks on and around the wheels, he finds a loose fender bolt and tightens it, using a second wrench to keep the head of the bolt from turning. On his way around the rear of the vehicle, he sees that the pintle hook will open and close easily. And moves on to the left rear wheels, where he continues to service his tires and tighten his wheel nuts, spring, fender, and body bolts. Then he checks the spare tire, and this completes his outside service. On his way around the vehicle, he has been observing the general condition of the body and tarps. He makes sure that, in spite of the rough going, his load is still equally distributed on both sides of the vehicle, thus preventing broken springs or swaying. Gas, water, and oil are generally thought of in sequence. So, after refueling the vehicle, he takes a look and a listen at the water and finds it low. He gets a bucket full of water and completes that service. The oil level proves to be satisfactory. He tests the fan belt for looseness. It has more than the allowable deflection, so he loosens the generator brace bolt and moves the generator away from the engine far enough to tighten the belt sufficiently. And he tightens the brace bolt, then checks to ensure it is of proper tension. He looks for damaged or loose connections in all ignition wiring. The oil in the air cleaner should be at the level marked in the reservoir. He tests for dirt by rubbing the oil between his fingers. If operating in extremely dusty terrain, he would have cleaned the breather with kerosene. And the fuel filter? He tests that for leakage by looking and feeling around the gasket. Last, he looks for worn or disconnected linkage and for leaks in the gas lines, valve cover, and cooling system. That's why the radiator needed water. And that completes the underhood service. Now he's starting on the last lap, the under truck service. He checks for gear oil leaks in the front differential Next, he cleans the vent by working it up and down to get rid of any dirt or sand, and sees that all bolts are tight to prevent leaks in the housing. After having serviced both rear differentials in the same manner, he tightens the mounting bolts of the center bearing, checks the vent, and tests the propeller shafts and universal joints for looseness. He continues forward to the transmission and transfer case, checks for oil leaks, and inspects for loose bolts. Now for the steering linkage. He sees that it's not bent or loose, but it looks as though it needs lubrication. The War Department lubrication guide says all vehicles should be lubricated at stated intervals. However, any part found in need of lubrication must be taken care of immediately. He cleans any surplus grease from the lubrication gun and puts it in the tool compartment. Then he sees that he has all his other tools. Before putting them away, he makes sure that they are clean and ready to use again. While he is back at the tool compartment, he checks over the spare parts to see that they are all present and in working order. Fan belt, valve caps and cores, cotter pins, spark plug and gasket, roll of tape. Before turning in his trip ticket, he washes the windshield and door glass, cleans out the cab, and uses whatever washing facilities are available for policing his truck. Now he knows that in spite of today's tough going, his truck is ready to roll again. In 5 minutes if necessary. And when you see Jones taking care of himself like this, you can be sure that he's first taking care of his truck, just as a good horseman first takes care of his mount. And after rest and sleep, it's time to go again. In the before operation service, the driver checks to see that every part of his truck is ready to go. To make sure the engine is ready to be started, he performs the under-hood service first. Then goes into the cab. Continuing with outside the vehicle, and lastly, under the truck. Many things can happen to a vehicle between the last check and the time it rolls again. Sabotage may be attempted. Booby traps may be installed. Another vehicle may back into it. A limb or some other object may fall on it. Tires may lose pressure or go flat. Engine oil, fuel, or water may leak out. Freezing may occur. And moisture may ground the spark plugs. Therefore, at least a quick check inside, outside, and under is necessary before the vehicle is used again. Having completed the underhood check, the driver starts the engine, at the same time checking the operation of the choke and listening for any knocks or unusual sounds. While the engine is warming up, he continues with the before operation services. Instruments, windshield wiper, horn, rear vision mirror, fire extinguisher, decontaminator, and lamps, front and rear. Then outside, tires and wheels. Make sure the tires are properly inflated. Springs, fenders, bumpers, and towing connections, both front and rear. Pintle hook. Fuel supply. Spare tire. Body, load, and tarp. Ending the outside check. Under the vehicle, he looks for any leakage, both rear and front. With the before operation service completed and the engine warmed up, the truck is ready to roll. This before operation service should never be entirely omitted, no matter what the conditions.